Question 1. The pesticide label shows all but one of the following. A. The personal protective equipment needed. B. The pesticide's chemical composition. Or C. All of the requirements of the Worker Protection Standard. Question 2. What's the best way to store pesticides? A. In a dry place. B. In a secure locked space. C. In a ventilated space. Or D. All of the above. Question 3. Who needs to provide the personal protective equipment that's required on the label? A. The grower. B. The employee. Or C. The pesticide company.
When it comes to pesticides, the label is the law, and the label comes on every pesticide container that you purchase. And in that label, you have the product name, the active ingredients, the manufacturer's directions for use, and other requirements that you need to follow when using the pesticide.
One of the things that's not found on the pesticide label is a lot of the worker protection requirements. It references that standard and says that you must follow these requirements, but all that information is not actually on the pesticide label, and the grower or employer needs to know that and assure that the workers have protective equipment, that they have training for the pesticide that they're going to use.
With the Worker Protection Standard, growers are responsible to train workers and handlers on their farm. There are specific items that must be covered, going over a worker protection safety poster as well as other things, just to let the workers know, what the grower's responsibilities are to them to protect them and things they should know to do if they were ever exposed to pesticides. PPE is required on product labels. It may be required for entry into a treated area, as the grower's responsibility to provide any PPE that is required on the product label to his workers or handlers.
PPE is completely governed by the pesticide label. It will tell you specifically what you need to wear, whether you need to wear just a long sleeve shirt and long pants, shoes and socks, or if you need to wear a Tyvek suit, maybe gloves, and also a respirator.
This is one of several different types of respirators that you could be required based on the product labeling. This is a half-mask respirator. There are also full-face respirators, and you could need something as simple as a dust mist filtering respirator that is not as complicated as one of these that I'm holding. But like I said, the label will tell you which specifically you need to wear for the products that you're applying. If it only has one band on the dust mist that you're wearing, it's not considered a respirator and would not require the medical fit testing. But if the label requires a respirator, then it would have to have at least the 2 straps and would require the medical evaluation and the fit testing. As far as storage on a farm or a commercial setting, the main thing has to be a dry, secure environment for the products. They need to be stored in a way that can be inspected. They can't just be in a heap in the corner.
Pesticide storage, where you have concentrated product, should always be locked and secured and ventilated. A sign on the door would be good to let people know what it is. There's different requirements across different states as to what certain regulations and requirements are in place, but some common sense about pesticide storage is always good.
As far as container disposal and reusing buckets or anything, it's illegal to reuse a pesticide container. And the label will tell you on there what you need to do with it once you're completed making the application and using the product. I recommend triple rinsing or pressure rinsing to clean the containers out, and then give you directions, depending on your state, whether to dispose them in the landfill or, if available, some recycling program.
Well, you always want to have the pesticide labeled. And it's easy for pesticide labels to come off containers because they can get wet, or sometimes they're little plastic sleeves that slide off. And even though the container may be something you're familiar with, it's easy to forget what it is. So those type containers that's pushed to the back of the storage for some period of time, you may forget what they are. And it's very difficult to get rid of unknown pesticides. The ideal thing is to only purchase the pesticide that you're going to use and use it in that growing season and not have leftover pesticide from one season to the next.
Record keeping on a farm is required under the Worker Protection Standard. So anytime you have workers or handlers on a farm, forest, nursery, or greenhouse, records are required to be kept to show the product that was applied, the time and date it was applied, and how long the restricted entry interval is for that product. Basically, how long a worker has to stay out of that treated field once the application is complete.
Reentry is included in the Worker Protection Standard, and it's mainly to protect workers, handlers from going back and forth into a field that's had an application. The pesticide label will tell you specifically what the reentry time is, regardless of the hours, and whether you should post the field by a sign or if you can just verbally tell the workers about the reentry interval time.
Drift, most products will say do not allow the product to drift. In our regulations, we enforce drift causing adverse effect. So if you apply a herbicide and it drifts onto another property and causes some type of adverse effect, either to the property, plants or whatnot, or to an individual, then we would consider that a drift causing adverse effect and would be a violation of our pesticide law. I mean, the main thing is to read the label, because the label is the law. Any violation or complaint that we investigate or look into, that's the first thing we'll go to is the label, see if they're following, that it's applied to a proper site and that it's used according to the directions that are on that label.
Well, I would advise growers to always take time to read the pesticide label. They need to read it carefully. Pesticide labels change all the time. EPA goes through every 15 years, they reevaluate the labels to determine if there needs to be changes. And in those situations, growers could buy the product and the labels have changed. So each growing season, take time to read the label and be sure that it's things that you can comply with. If you have problems with certain areas of it that you know you won't be able to comply, then by all means look for a different product. For farm workers, usually if they are maybe not workers but handlers where they actually handle pesticides or make pesticide applications, be aware of that grower. If he provides them with protective equipment, it's there for their safety. And it might not be convenient and it could be uncomfortable, but it is for their safety. So be aware of that. You should be trained in the pesticides that you're going to use. Be sure that you pay special attention to that training and take it to heart.
Question 1. The pesticide label shows all but one of the following. A. The personal protective equipment needed. B. The pesticide's chemical composition. Or C. All of the requirements of the Worker Protection Standard. The answer is C. The pesticide label does not contain all of the requirements of the Worker Protection Standard. Question 2. What's the best way to store pesticides? A. In a dry place. B. In a secure locked space. C. In a ventilated space. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. The best way to store pesticides is in a dry, secure, locked space that's ventilated. Question 3. Who needs to provide the personal protective equipment that's required on the label? A. The grower. B. The employee. Or C. The pesticide company. The answer is A. The grower needs to provide the personal protective equipment required on the label.